Sandra, it's brilliant to be here at the David Livingstone Centre, and you're in the first episode of our A Blether with podcast. And the idea is we want to get out around the constituency and hear about all the amazing things that are going on across the community. So it's brilliant to be here, first of all. And I suppose the question really is, for people who have never been to the David Livingstone Centre, what's it all about?
Well, the main thing it's about is the life of David Livingstone and his family, and I guess understanding the really, really humble beginnings of David, and what he did with his life and why. So there's really a lot to learn when you come here.
And we're obviously really proud that David Livingstone's from Blantyre. We've got the church, we've got the primary school named after him, a big sign on the way in. What's the sort of connection of the centre to Blantyre itself? Because it's much more than just a museum now, isn't it? It's a real community asset.
It is. People are proud, very, very proud of the fact that, David Livingstone does come from here. But it's not just that. The family all worked here at the mill. So we had a massive cotton mill here 200 years ago. And the whole family worked in the mill. At any one time, there could have been about 1,800 to 2,000 people on this site where we are, and they would all have been mill workers. Children from age sort of 5 or 6 would have been in the mill working. So very, very humble beginnings. People come down and they walk in and they see our lovely building and they go, wow, David Livingstone lived in there. Oh, no, he had one room. The family had one room in this massive building. There were actually 24 families lived in this building that we're actually in at the moment. So yes, very, they were quite poor. David was slightly luckier than a lot of the children because his family were literate, therefore his father worked in the wages office, so he got paid a little bit more. So David was able to stay at school till he was 10. So as a result of that, it meant that he sort of had a really good basic education, which he then built on with the help of local teachers. He read all the time in books. Lots and lots of books he would have read and writing all the time, till he could eventually go to university, which again, really, really unusual. And even then, when he did go, he walked to Strathclyde, because that's where the medical school was. He went to it was the Andersonian Institute, and he went there to do medicine. Walked there on a Sunday night and back on a Friday night. We reckon he probably used more in shoe leather than he would have if he'd just got on a horse and cart. But yes, so he was very determined, a very, very determined man, without a doubt.
It is quite interesting, the point around David Livingstone's background, because you do tend to think of him as the sort of Victorian gentleman that you see the pictures of and the artwork and everything else. And most people probably don't know very much more than David Livingstone went to Africa and all of that. So, and it ties in a bit with what you're trying to do here at the centre, is that you want to try and reach out to the whole community, and to particularly recognising Blantyre still has high levels of poverty, and you want them to be part of the centre as well. So can you talk a bit about that sort of social inclusion piece that you're doing here? Yeah,
absolutely. We're very much determined to be a community hub here. So anything we can do to support the local community, we're really trying our very best. We've got, we apply for grants. Everything we do here is grant funded. So if we can get a grant that will pay for some activities that we can offer free, which would be like our craft classes on a Tuesday, which is lovely for people just to come down, and some of them are carers, some are looking after elderly relatives, or have partners that are terminally ill, and they can come down here and just have a couple of hours just to themselves and really just clear their minds and make some really rather beautiful art at the same time. So it's really nice. We have gardening clubs down here. You can come down here and spend a bit of time in our lovely polycrop and just while away a few hours. We also do a lot for families. We have an exploring group down in our gardens, and we explorers, we call them, and then we do baby wearing walks for mums, and we also do a little bit around in the wintertime around fuel poverty. So we offer a space down here for people who just can't afford to heat their houses, and we call it Soup and Soul. We don't want it to be portrayed as anything other than a nice meeting place. Come down, have a bowl of soup and a chat with some of us. But yeah, we're very much trying to focus on the community. We do a community day every year in August during the school holidays, because we know all the mums and dads are running out of money at that time of the year. So everything we do is free. And if the children take part in the activities, they get a free hot dog for their lunch as well. So we do our very best if we can to give things back.
And last time I was here, you were having a rock concert in the park as well, so which was great. You had loads of different bands, but there was loads of people just sitting, enjoying the sunshine. I don't know. I'm tempted to ask as a podcast question, what band would David Livingstone enjoy listening to if he were here now? But I don't know. But part of that I thought was great because there is, as much as it's about activities and things, I think it's also about a space where people can reduce a bit of that social isolation and just to be as a family, sitting on a bit of grass, enjoying the day and listening to some music.
Absolutely, yeah. And we're lucky we are surrounded by the Clyde here. So there's a lovely walks. You can go down and stand at our viewing platform, have a look at the water and just, while away some time. You often see families down here for whole days, having their picnics and just really relaxing and enjoying themselves. And the music festival was a prime example of that. We must have had close on 2,000 people down here just really having a good time. Children were up dancing and there's lots going on. But yeah, I'm not sure about the band in terms of David Livingstone. I need to give that some serious thought. Yeah.
What would David Livingstone's Desert Island Discs be? I don't know. For another episode of the podcast. Mate, I don't know if we've got music rights on this anyway, so we probably can't play it anyway. But one of the other things you're doing that's really interesting, you mentioned some of it in the community activities, but it's not that commonly known in the museum sector for there to be a real focus on the sustainability and environmental impact beyond even just the museum itself. You're doing a lot of outreach work and a lot of activities on that sort of sustainability piece. Why do you think that's so important?
It's important on a number of levels, really. Everybody needs to do a wee bit. Everybody needs to do a wee bit. Now, we could use the excuse we're in a Grade A listed building, it's drafty, it's going to be difficult to heat, it's going to be damp in the winter time. But yeah, I'm not going for that. I think we all have to try something. So we did have very drafty doors, but we got a grant from Business Energy Scotland, and we've secondary glazed all our in the windows and the inside, because obviously we're very restricted in a building like this. And we also draft proofed all our doors, things like that. And it makes it not only more comfortable for us in terms of our electricity and gas bill, but also for us personally, because we're in the museum so much, it just makes it just a wee bit of a warmer space. But it will eventually reduce our carbon footprint. But we're also doing things around the cafe. You've got to think about the amount of power we use in the cafe and, where we're ordering our food from. So we're now trying to grow a lot of our food here. We've got a polycrub, growing a lot of our fruit and veg, and we're actually composting it all in a commercial composter out the back, which, if I'm honest, is a wee bit stinky at times. It's a wee bit stinky. But I think that's just a sign that we're doing the right thing. When that happens, people say, what is that dodgy smell?
It's really brilliant. I mean, you're doing so many things here. And one of the things I think, and partly why we're doing the podcast about things like this, is that maybe, because you're a bit down the road in Blantyre, a lot of people might have thought, well, they went to the museum maybe as a Wayne and they've never been back. But you're doing so many things. And you were talking about 5-year-olds working in the mill. You've not got 5-year-olds running the place now, but you've got a huge team of volunteers, haven't you? And they really keep the whole thing moving.
We do. We're lucky because we're very small core staff here, but we've got about 54-ish volunteers, and they range from teenagers right up to, we've got Mary, who's, I think she's hitting 90 now, and she's still here. We've got some really dedicated people. I hope she is,
because you've just said she is. So she's actually only in her 70s.
Oh, don't say that, please. Well done, I'll be in so much trouble with Mary. No, but our volunteers are the reason we're still here, because they do so much, and a lot of them were at the music festival on Saturday, which was great. But because of them, we were able to apply for our investing in volunteers, which is a great thing to be able to have achieved as such a small organisation, because we do our very best to look after the volunteers, because they do so much for us. 26-acre parkland here, and we've got like half a dozen gardeners looking after it 2 days a week. I don't know how they do it, but they're amazing. So yeah, we're lucky. We're very, very lucky with our volunteers.
And I always think it's a bit of a two-way street with this. I mean, I used to run a charity with volunteers, and you get a lot as an organisation out of volunteers that you wouldn't be able to do without them. But done well, volunteering is also a huge opportunity for them. And I remember coming down, I can't remember what you had, us peddling for something on a peddling from Malawi or something. And there was loads of volunteers, and they were all, slightly older, let's say that. But the thing that struck me was, for them, it was a really important part of reducing their kind of isolation and building friendships
newly
as well.
Newly retired people, I think, it's a bit of a shock to their system, isn't it? They suddenly stop working and they're like, oh, what do I do now? And that's what we do find sometimes. We do pick up people that are, they come in and go, can we volunteer here? What do you do? How do we do it? And then all of a sudden we've got, suddenly learning so much about David Livingstone and actually going out and doing tours and everything with visitors, which is, I think, is fantastic. And keep using your brain cells. That's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
Regardless of your age.
Really great. Look, last thing I suppose I wanted to talk about is obviously, for any charity, you need funding to keep the lights on and to keep doing all the things you were doing. And I know we've talked before about the type of funding landscape there is, and what are the sort of challenges with just keeping it all going?
Challenges are funding is always project-based, we find, and that's really tricky for an organisation like us, because our core costs in terms of power and keeping the lights on, as you say, it's a tricky one, and it's always just 1 year. You often get funding for 1 year for this and 1 year for that, and you're just really getting into it, and then suddenly it's finished, you're writing reports and it's done. I think funders are starting to get a bit of a thought around that, and our main funder would be Museums Galleries Scotland, and they are very supportive of us, and they're really listening, they're starting to listen. But really, the difference to us would be somebody that was willing to sort of core fund us and at least give us a wee bit of a boost that would keep us going. Because our staffing levels are, at the moment, ridiculously low.
And of course, you always end up in that sort of cycle where if you don't get the core funding in, you lose the person that's actually able to do the grant applications around you.
Yeah, and it's all that experience you're losing every time. It's really not very good. We are involved in a project with Next Steps Initiative, which is trying to get more people from different diverse backgrounds into the museum. So I'm taking on 2 students this year to do that, and they do an SVQ around it and everything. It's really, really good. But they also get to learn about a museum from the bottom up and how to run it from beginning to end. And you wouldn't get that in a bigger organisation. So we are actually able to offer a really good experience here, which is
really
nice.
Brilliant. Well, look, I always enjoy my time down here, not just because the carrot cake in the cafe is first class, but you always there's a lovely atmosphere down here. There's always a real mix of people in the cafe, and there's loads of things happening. I don't think I've ever been down here and the same activity's been happening twice. Like, you've always got something else on. If there was sort of one thing you would want to do if funding wasn't an issue, is there anything that's sort of like an ambition that you've got as a centre?
I'd like to do more work placement work. I'd love to bring more people down, and that is part of what I'm hoping to do this year. Is I'd like to bring more young people with, because we already have some volunteers that have different additional support needs, and I'd love to do more and more of that. I think we are the sort of place that you can come here for an hour, you can come here for half a day. I just like my door to always be open, and if I could structure that more and just give more opportunities to these young people, I really would like to do that.
It's brilliant and really important.
Yeah.
Today, actually, hugely important.
Really
well, listen, it's been a brilliant conversation. We got through the first episode
we did.
flawlessly, thanks to you,
I feel like
Sandra.
a guinea pig. I would just like to say that. I feel like a guinea pig.
I think the problem is we've sort of set a standard for these now that's quite high, so amazing. But thank you very much. It's been a wee blether with Sandra from the David Livingstone Birthplace, and thank you for everything you do in the community. And if you're out there as a funder, there are a million things that Sandra would like to do at the David Livingstone Birthplace that I'm sure she would take your call. Thank you very much for joining me.
No, thank you for having me. Thank you.
And then you're supposed to do the cheer thing, Lloyd. The cheer.
What happened to that?
Oh, hey! Okay, that was a bit much, actually. Yeah.